and welcome to Gerety Talks. My name is Lucia Ongaya and I am the co-founder of the Gerety Awards. Just like the award, this series looks to put in the spotlight and at the center of the conversation the industry's true changemaker. Today we have three very special guests to talk about creative strategy. Kit Altin, Chief Strategy Officer at The Gate in the UK. Laia Avellan Ponce de Leon, Head of CS DACH Interim Meta Creative Shop EMEA in Germany, and Sarol Takal, Strategy Director, DDB Hungary. So thank you very much. Welcome and thanks for joining us today. So we are going to start straight with the questions. So can you first tell us more about your role and who would like to start with the question?
I don't mind, should I start?
Yes.
So hi, yes, my name is Kit. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at The Gate London, a creative agency where we tend to focus more on kind of UK and domestic clients. But I also have another strategic hat, which is CSO for MSQ, which is our group. So that's where I look after kind of regional, European, and also global clients. And I'm also a teacher, so I lead 2 masterclasses for D&AD for individuals and for agencies and for companies all around the world, helping people to develop their skills in creativity and communication. That's
Great.
I'm happy to go next.
Yes.
So I'm Laia, and as part of Creative Shop at Meta, previously Facebook, we sit, what you will say, at the intersection between tech and creativity, and that's what shapes our work. We work mainly together with agencies and with clients and help them to discover new possibilities of innovating on our platforms. And then we retrofit all of these learnings, all of these overarching patterns that we can identify into what we hope helps democratizing this knowledge so that more businesses, more brands can create better, more interesting, more creatively challenging work on our platforms.
Hi, and I'm Charlotta. I'm a strategy director here in Budapest at DDB. DDB is one of the leading advertising agency in this market. The market is small, so we are not a huge shop, but trying to be the most creative shop. In planning, I consider myself kind of like an all-around planner. I do a lot of brand planning, marketing strategy, and of course, creative. We do work for domestic clients, and our biggest 2 clients are Telekom, so the Hungarian branch of Deutsche Telekom, and McDonald's.
Okay, and I saw a post on Twitter the other day that read, creative without strategy is called art. Creative with strategy is called advertising. So what do you think of this statement, and do you agree with it?
Yes and no. I think it's a bit obviously flat and punchy and direct. I would say, of course, we aim always to solve a problem or to untap an opportunity. So from that perspective, yes, you would say that's the role that strategy infuses into creativity, and that's what we aim for in advertising. But I would also say strategy without creativity is just PowerPoint. So it goes both ways. And I would also break a lance for those ideas that feel far remote from the brief, because sometimes, although we might think this doesn't come from a real brief, deep down our subconscious has identified some problem, some opportunity. And then untangling this and recognizing that most creative ideas respond to a strategic logic is also part of our works. And it's not so black and white. I guess that's what I'm going for.
I think I also saw this quote on LinkedIn, and I think originally it came from an kind of like an iconic advertising person. My first thought was that something in advertising wrote this. I had the feeling it's a little, it's not egocentric, but like, it's strategy and creativity can be so many other things. Then advertising, and advertising is clearly something that needs a strategy. Strategy without creativity without strategy in advertising doesn't make much sense. But also it can be many other things. It can be innovation. It can be so many other things.
Yeah, I don't know what I can add actually, because I thought there were two really brilliant answers, apart from to say that I definitely don't agree with the statement. I think even if you are an artist, and you're making a living from your art and you're nothing to do with advertising, you will still have strategy in your work, because even if you're not sure where the creativity is going to take you, or even what medium it's going to be, or whatever, you still have something you want to explore. You still have an objective. You've got a point that you want to make, or an issue that you want to find the edges of, or something. Like it's pretty rare that even, I think, as a sort of pure artist, that you're going to just be working at random. There will be things that you want to make happen. And I think at the end of the day, that's what strategy is, making things happen.
And what do you think is the key skill or thing to know in order to create a successful creative strategy for a brand?
I'll tell you what, I went last, so I'll go first this time. This is a very difficult one to distill down to one answer. So this was a very mean question, but in the spirit of doing it, I think I would probably pick empathy as your kind of key skill, because as a strategist, you've got to be able to get into so many people's worlds and walk in their shoes and really, really understand them. And that does require quite kind of radical empathy, I think, actually, more than just, it's more than just doing a really good focus group. It's more than just tons and tons of research. You've got to, at a very kind of visceral human level, be able to understand someone who may be completely different to you. I'm gonna go for empathy.
Actually, this question is quite often asked when you do a job interview. Candidates ask, what are the skills you're particularly looking for? And I always say curiosity and empathy first. Without curiosity, I don't think you can be a great strategist or a great planner. You have to be curious in people's lives. And I would add one or two more things. One is how you are able to simplify things and bring clarity into chaos a lot of times. And increasingly in this market, at least, it's also the speed at which you can do all that, because lead times are becoming shorter and shorter. So sometimes I have the feeling that these days I have to work like 3 times faster than I used to, like a decade ago.
And you mean that because of the pandemic, or not necessarily?
No, not. I don't think the pandemic has anything to do with it. It's just the speed clients work, the lead times that are shorter and shorter. So I remember when I was a marketing director, end of the 90s to beginning of 2000s, normally we had months for developing a campaign. Now we have weeks. Not too many, I could count on my hand.
Yeah, agree. +1 on both answers, and especially on the significant reduction of lead times. And on that, I think we could add that having certain grit and resilience and not taking everything for given is key, because it's very easy in this constrained and fast-moving ecosystem in which we operate to just take on the client's briefing and say, yes, right, so this is the problem, let's look for the solution. And I think what we were all also highlighting, the need for curiosity and the need for empathy is there, because you need to question things, and no great idea will arise unless you have really cracked the problem, and this problem needs to be well understood and defined. And equally, like us not having time, lots of clients don't have time either on their end, so we are passing on portions of the problem lots of times, and we're not paying enough attention to understanding what are we solving for, or what is the opportunity that we think there is. And without this groundwork, it's difficult to build anything great, I would say.
And what are the biggest challenges for creative strategy today?
Charolta, I think you stole my answer to this question. I think the speed at which we operate is one of the biggest challenge. Just trying to find the space for us to think. It's getting more and more challenging, especially because there's this combination of speed and information overload. So technically you have more possibilities than ever, but you have to make time for it. You have to make time to step back and reflect on the problem.
Yeah, I think I would build on that actually, because for me, I think there are two key challenges. One is kind of too much data, not enough insights. We kind of, we're to Laya's point, kind of drowning in data now, and that can be great. But I think one of the problems is that we can end up treating data as content when actually it's context, and you still need that lateral thinking and the human touch and the leap somewhere. The data is just it's input for you, and it's not kind of the end of it all. And then I think the other big challenge that I see is that creative strategy is getting kind of boxed in further down the chain, especially if you're working with big clients that have their own marketing departments. So we're sort of further and further away from solving the business problem. And I think that's a real problem as well, because we can be at our most useful and at our most valuable, and frankly often it's the most fun when we're in the trenches with our clients, right up kind of in the thick of the business, rather than just right at the other end kind of solving a conundrum.
I would also say that at least here, my biggest challenge is people finding strategists at all in this small market. And I've talked to many junior people recently, also people in universities. And what I see is that, unfortunately, advertising is not that attractive anymore as it used to be. So it almost feels like it's losing attraction to tech companies. There's so much more interesting and exciting stuff going on in the world. So I know it's a broader perspective, but I have the feeling that it starts somewhere there these days.
It's interesting because I was recording another Gerety talk about Indian creativity, and they mentioned exactly the same thing as you. So apparently something that is happening like everywhere. And talking about leadership, how do you inspire the people you work with? What are your tips for getting the best of them? And Kit, you might know about this since you were awarded the Drum Strategy Gym of the Year 2021. Congratulations on that.
Oh no, thank you. We're very proud of it, and I'm very proud of my team. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know always how to inspire people. You have to ask my team whether that's true or not. But certainly, what I have found works well is just set people up for success and then get out of the way. I really want to create psychological safety for my team and then just let them fly. What I want is a team of people who are asking forgiveness, not permission. They feel like safe and comfortable to take risks, to take intelligent risks, and to grow and to explore. And I'm sort of the pit stop crew. I'm the back office, like they're the star drivers. It's my job just to kind of help them do that. So I guess I feel my role as a leader is to free them and to kind of, enhance what's already there. So this is actually something that I always say in my teaching as well, is my job today is not to teach you, it's to reveal what you already can do. You just didn't know, or you didn't know it quite fully. It's all kind of within you. My job is just to I try and apply that to everyone that I'm working with, whether it's kind of my teaching or my or my main job.
Charolta?
Yeah, it's kind of a tough one. I've been thinking about this, and first of all, I have a very small team. So it's right now it's 2 people and me. We are the team, and it's a huge amount of work. So it's more about collaboration. Definitely not a pit stop, but like doing stuff together, and making sure that everyone has the right info, the right knowledge, enough motivation to get through it. I think the best answer is that you should ask the team, but it's really, I think it's role modeling. I'm hoping that they see that I'm so hungry for information, knowledge on a daily basis. I read everything, I follow everybody, and I share what I find exciting. So I'm hoping that this is inspiring for these people, to grow and start to fly alone. It's challenging in this market due to the lack of talent and the lack of junior people coming into planning.
And to build on both these points, I think we've been talking for a while about people first ideas and customer first or people first marketing. And the same applies in my perspective to leadership on any sort of work that requires inspiring and influencing a group to work together in whichever sort of hierarchical structure you might find yourself. For instance, tech is quite flat, so it's less about a top-down sort of I tell you what to do, which anyway should be passé, but more about building this rapport. And on that, I think it might seem obvious and cliche, but I still think empathy and vulnerability are 2 of the biggest ways of understanding the people you work with, understanding their motivations, their fears, their hopes, and also providing for this safe space that Kit was mentioning, for them to understand that none of us is perfect. Every one of us is facing challenges, and everything intertwines in the workplace. So just bringing an empathic self and leading without pretending everything is perfect and everything is working and you have everything figured out, because no one has figured it out, is probably something important in today's world, more than ever, especially.
I think that is so true. And just to build on that, I remember a couple of years ago, someone said to me, "You were the first boss I've ever had who says, I don't know the answer, but we'll figure it out." Which I just thought was astounding. I was like, well, yeah, there's loads of stuff I don't know. And it's exactly that point about being honest and about being vulnerable and not sort of pretending that you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I also read in an article, creative strategists tend to be people who feel more comfortable with helping amplify and making an idea better rather than starting with a blank piece of paper. Do you recognize yourself in these phrases?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a bit black and white, and you are pushing us to say yes or no. I would say, first of all, an idea can originate anywhere. So it can also originate within what you call a creative strategist. But an idea without execution is just a great thought on paper or PowerPoint. So it takes a village. And overall, I would say people coming from a planning strategies, creative strategies background, they tend to feel more comfortable not being the ones who are the ultimate makers and being more sort of sideline workers, teaming up with others, helping finesse, build, grow, nurture the idea, as opposed to other parts of the team that maybe are more focused on the making, the craftsmanship. But I do believe it's everyone's responsibility to be involved along the process.
I also believe that this depends on the actual culture you work in, or at least that's what I hear from a lot of people, and that's also my experience, as well as on your background. I have a background in marketing, brand management, brand consulting, so I'm coming from that direction. I would guess I'm a different planner to someone who comes from copywriting or any creative discipline. So actually, I find my strengths more in the front end, so brand strategy, launching, and then collaborating with creatives, and then amplifying, rather than being the one who defines the go-to idea. But it's a big debate. That's a debate we constantly have. People who get disappointed in planning, usually they get disappointed for this reason, because they understood planning in a way that they come up with the idea and the creatives would execute that idea. And that's not the case here at DDB, definitely not. It's so much more collaborative. And before DDB, I worked for YNR, definitely not the case there either. So, but I'm on the amplifying side, if I have to take a side.
I am going to do the planning classic and refuse to pick a side, but but I'm going to have my cake and eat it. I think you do need to be able to do both, really, as a working strategist today. And certainly, I feel all the time that I'm starting with a blank sheet of paper in terms of what's the strategy. Once you've kind of done all your research and put everything into your head, that it's kind of sitting down. It's like, wow, what's the answer? What's what am I going to come up with that's going to be the springboard for everything else? So I guess I slightly feel the tyranny of the blank sheet of paper, like a writer does. At the same time, obviously, we're constantly through that process of everything that Lara and Gerety have said in terms of collaborating and building and moulding is an extremely important part of our roles as well. So I think to be a good working strategist today, you've got to be comfortable, at least to a degree of comfort in both sides, but you may have a preference.
And Charolta, your bio as a marketing professional, you found yourself always more excited about and engaged with the process of strategic thinking and planning than about implementation. And this led you to founding your own consulting business. What were the biggest challenges?
Well, this was long time ago. So as I said, I worked in marketing. I was a marketing director of an FMCG company, a multinational FMCG company. So that's hard work. And I was in my late 20s only. And at one point I discovered that, wow, I work so much, but I don't live so much. So the motivation to found that consulting business was to be able to live more. And I'm not sure that's the right reason you found the company. But anyway, I was hoping that I could do whatever I enjoy, but work less, let's say, than 12 hours every day and weekends. And the biggest challenge was exactly this. It was not possible. I couldn't do it. I'm sure it's possible, but I couldn't do it. Scalability was clearly the big issue. So I actually ended up working more. I found it really difficult to say no to clients. I enjoyed the demand, but actually my work-life balance was worse than ever. And this lasted for about 8 years, but during these 8 years, I gave birth to 2 daughters. And that was a great pleasure, also complicated work life. So it was not so easy at those times working from home with a toddler, but it was also an opportunity. So I think it was that time when I actually discovered in myself after just, years of working and working and working, what is the kind of work that I enjoy. And today I'm very solid about understanding about myself that I'm an overachiever, and an overachiever needs an audience. I work much better when I have a boss, and when I was my own boss, that was not the right boss. So it was a terrible boss. So it was the biggest learning, I think, about the way I enjoy working in community, in a culture that is great, coming in every day, meeting people, developing people, all that.
And Laia, in 2021, you were part of the team leading the launch of the Compassionate Pad, which is the world's first pad designed with the physical and emotional needs of those experiencing pregnancy loss in mind. Can you tell us about this project?
Thank you. Thank you for asking this. I actually have it here. So this is the result of this project. Well, it's probably one of these projects that if you work in the idea making sort of space, however we want to call it, you dream of, just influencing more than just a campaign. We actually identified, and it was a lot of through a personal lived experience, that pregnancy loss actually happens way often than we actually might realize. So 1 in 4 pregnancies end in loss. From a planning creative strategy perspective, this would be the starting point where you find out about one start and start understanding the context, and you deep drilling and then understand how people experiencing pregnancy loss are often suffering in silence, and through that they don't have access to proper support or information. And with that, we started basically ideating for what could be a good solve for this. How could anyone provide support in this space? And well, through this process of ideation, through this being free to give an answer to an insight to a problem that goes beyond just awareness communication, we actually identified that there was no pad producer worldwide that was actually targeting this problem and providing some support with it. So basically anyone experiencing pregnancy loss needs to use pads as the remains need to go out, so to speak. And all of the pads out there are either targeting what I would say teenagers entering puberty, or senior people having other type of issues. So just ideating around this, and then taking this opportunity more down the realm of R&D and product development, and finding a country where to pilot this, in India, where the incidence is much higher, and finding a company who was actually brave enough and willing to do the complex product R&D was brilliant. And then we built this actual physical product that has been designed for this heavy flow and copyrighted to provide some sort of comfort in this situation. It was then linked to a bot-based emotional support system, so to speak, perishable, like a campaign. Campaigns can achieve great impact, but that's something that is a creative strategy is very close to my heart. And needless to say, there was a big team involved. So there were some great women, some great allies involved in creating this, and an amazing company.
And talking about impact, Kit, you're passionate about communication that changes the world for the better, and you co-founded a very successful agency that's called Change just to do that. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I also just want to say, Laia, that idea is amazing and so inspiring, and thank you for sharing it. And I've absolutely no doubt that an enormous number of women would be really grateful for it. So a huge congrats for that. In terms of change, so this was in 2011, so it was kind of before the big marketing purpose discussion happened. So still quite pleased that we spotted this opportunity before then. But my dear friend and colleague Alice Hooper and I spotted an opportunity for really to do some good in the world with our skills and with the resources of the group that we were in at the time, And we saw, that brands and businesses could make more a positive contribution. So yes, this was about great communications for social good, but also about investing in social enterprises and helping established brands to operate with a greater sense of ethics and responsibility and all of that. So it was kind of like the whole picture. And I'm really proud of it for three reasons. One, the work we did was absolutely groundbreaking, really innovative, really bold. And that's hard enough to do. But on top of that, there's the longevity of it. So we changed British law to better protect children online, and that's forever. We created a behavioural change campaign to prevent drowning that is still running nearly a decade later. Exactly the line that we pitched is still running a decade later, and many, many lives have been saved. And that's just like unbelievably satisfying. I think particularly for planners, because a lot of the time you can sort of feel that your output is PowerPoint on a bad day, not always. And then the third reason I'm really proud of it is that it's how we did it. The way of working, it was very agile, it was very iterative, it was small teams, multidisciplinary, kind of before all this became super trendy. And it really broke down a lot of silos. And I think it created a team and a period in time that was really joyous. We really worked our asses off, but we had such a blast doing it. And there was a real connection between all of us, I think is still felt today. And I think, that's really what I'm always aiming for in my work. And I think a lot of people are, whether I'm leading the team or not, but it's the sense of being united, that you trust each other completely, and that you're on an amazing adventure. You're fighting for something, you're on a mission. Like that's, I think what I've realized, I really need that to feel happy and fulfilled. And I think a lot of people do. And I think a lot of people, particularly coming up through kind of the younger generations, she said, sounding like an old granny. But that's true as well. They're on a mission of various kinds as well. I'm not saying, the whole of Gen Z is all about ethics and purpose or anything like that, but I do notice there is a greater sensitivity to that than there has been in previous years. And I think so that's something for us all to be conscious of and kind of trying to create in the agencies and the departments that we're running.
Great. Well, so thank you so much for sharing this time with us and telling us about your projects and creative strategy in general. And I hope everything you do this year is great and you have great projects ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was good to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.